What's up everyone? Chef Day back with another cooking video, and today we are going to talk yuca. The yuca is known by many different names. It's obviously yuca, cassava, manioc. It is, I believe, a delicious, first and foremost, but also a pretty diverse starch. And I do love me some starches. And it's funny because although a lot of people know what it is, have seen a yuca or cassava in your grocery store, I think in the United States, outside of obviously some ethnic populations who really rely on it, Americans as a whole don't really know it that well. And which is interesting because after doing some research, I knew it was popular. Some surveys vary, but this is actually the 5th largest produced crop in the world. Something like 300 million tons of cassava are produced each year across the world. In Brazil, they use it in a lot of different ways. The origins of this are actually in Brazil. It's been traced back to what we know now as Brazil. It is an interesting crop because, what's the best way to put this? It kind of it does what it does, and it almost has sort of a mind of its own, because when you plant this, it can deplete the soil of nutrients because it likes to eat. However, it is also super resilient and can actually grow in extremely arid climates. Africa, Nigeria being one of the largest or the largest producer of yuca. It can grow in arid climates, acrid soil, acidic soils, low nutrient soil. Even though it likes a lot of nutrients, it will still grow in super low nutrient soils. So a lot of people believe this is the future of food because of its diversity in cuisine, its resilience to where it can grow, and it just seems like this might be the future. And considering that it's the 5th largest produced crop in the world, I think more Americans should probably jump on board and begin to explore it at home, because it's readily available in most grocery stores. You probably have seen it if you've never tried it. Let's take a look. It can be a little bit rough to work with, so I'm going to try to show you some of the ways I've learned in the past of working with. I love yuca with mojo, just oil and garlic over the top, sometimes some cilantro or something like that. But I also love crispy yuca, like yuca fries sort of, and we're going to try that out in the air fryer today. And then we're going to toss them in mojo, so it's kind of the best of both worlds in my opinion. Let's get into it. Okay, so now, as you can tell, this is a pretty rough looking root vegetable. It's got a very coarse outside. It's usually dipped in wax for protectant. This one is actually a product of Costa Rica. Like I said, Nigeria produces something like, I don't want to say the wrong number, but something like 40% of the yuca consumed in the world. A lot of it is also produced in Asia. So this can be very difficult to work with. It is extremely starchy, but is also kind of brittle, which is interesting. And like I said, it almost has 2 layers of skin. It's got this obviously rough exterior layer, and then inside it's got almost like another layer of skin that you want to remove. There's a couple different ways to do this. Most importantly, you want to put this into a manageable size. First thing I like to do with a very sharp knife is cut that. Okay, now you want to be careful. This is very difficult to cut through. I'm working at a little bit of an angle, but I don't like putting my hand on top of a knife. It's very easy to slip, and the tip of this knife will absolutely destroy your hand. So if you can cut through it, great. These get also much bigger and sometimes require a much larger knife. Now, if you are going to, or if you find the necessity to put your hand on the front of the knife, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. But what I want you to do for safety's sake is this. Okay? So we're going to cut this in about 4-inch pieces, give or take. Okay? We're going to make a cut, wiggle, okay? And then if you have to put your hand on the front of the knife, put it with a towel, put it so that the tip is down, and then with your other hand, push down this way. But very important, make sure the tip is down. This way you can create a lever, and it's a little bit easier to cut down that way. Just my tip, I think it's super important to do that. If you don't, you can really, really hurt yourself, and that is a bad thing. Same thing with this. Again, I'll show you. Take it, cut it, tip down, towel on top of the knife, and cut downward away, okay? That's the safest way to cut these into manageable pieces. Now, Yuca is also interesting because it's a root within a root, as I jokingly call it. See this little guy? A lot of times this runs through it. You can kind of see it right there. Not the most edible piece. We'll try to take that out later. But if you get one while you eat it, it's just kind of like a woody string piece, and you just put it to the side. Not the end of the world. Some people take this and with their knife, peel it like this. Some people peel it with a peeler, but you gotta get pretty deep into this to peel it. See, if you notice, you see it has that ring. It's almost like a age ring on a tree, but you want to get below that if you can. So let's see if I can do this the way I've heard you can do this. I've never done it myself, but I've heard you can do it this way. So you're gonna take your knife and give it a whack, then give it a until you hear that crack. See that? Now that has come up. I'll show you. This has come up like that. Then you're going to run your finger down, and then you're going to peel it, and it works like a goddamn charm. How do you like them apples? Come back the other way. This is going to be problematic because it's got that little root guy there, but we're going to, again with our finger, run our finger down and peel it down like that. Now again, this has this little root piece coming out, so it's making it a little bit harder, but it was actually my first time trying this method, and as you can see, for the first time, that ain't so bad. Now with that, we'll just cut that off, and we'll deal with that later. Okay? Put that to the side. We're going to try that again. See, this is where it gets stuck sometimes, and this is what I read too, where when you have imperfections, it can get stuck. So let's try from the other side. Okay? Run our finger down. That's good. Yeah. See that? I'm not using much force. It takes a little bit of force, but I'm definitely not like struggling to do this. You know what I mean? Until you get to that imperfection again. Oh, there you go. Alright, just like that. Okay, now that we have our pieces clean, we're going to cut them in equal pieces, essentially. Okay? And so, again, wanting to be careful, something thinner like this, you're going to cut just straight down. Okay? Actually, lay it on the flat side. Okay? Perfect. Same thing here. Now we'll keep an eye out for that root. Okay? So you see there's a root there. This one, kind of cut it that way. Now there's no real predicting which way this puppy will go, but you can take that out and you see it there. Okay? It's fine. This will go throughout the whole thing. But as you can see, sometimes when you pull it like that, you can get most of it out. And you will give them a once over once they're cooked to check them out as well. Once we have everything cut, we're going to take it, put it into a pot. For me, I like to try to do this in a single layer, just so they're not super piled up on top of each other. It's okay if they're a little bit on top of each other, but I like to try to do it, if I can help it, in a wide bottom. This way, everything cooks consistently. So we're going to cover this with cold water. To this, we are going to add some salt. The salt is important. Now we're going to bring this to a boil, and we're going to simmer it gently for about 5 to 6 minutes. Now for our other part in this, we're going to make some garlic mojo. So we're going to take a fair amount of garlic. In this case, we've got 7 nice sized garlic cloves. Smash them up, chop it up. I sort of like the little big kind of chunks of garlic in there too. But I think if you cut it too fine, it also has a greater risk of burning. Then we're going to take neutral oil, probably about half a cup. And put it in there. Basically, you're just going to heat this up until it starts sizzling a little bit. As you can see, and zoom in there for you. As you can see, it's starting to fizzle up, but it's only happening on one side, right? So we want to even this oil temperature, and you do that by just simply giving it a light swirl. And you see how it starts evening out like that? So once it starts bubbling like that, you're going to give it basically a 10 count. Alright, 10 count, and turn it off. And it's going to keep cooking. Okay. To this, I like to add a couple cracks of pepper. And then we're just going to set this aside until it kind of comes to room temperature. You notice how there's no real browning. It's just kind of super effervescent. You're getting a tiny bit of browning right on those little bitty pieces, which is totally fine. That adds an interesting contrast of flavor where you'll get those brown little bitty pieces, but then you'll still have these, they'll be soft, but you still have these kind of more raw, if you will, bigger pieces. And I really like that contrast across this oil sauce, if you will. Okay, we're going to set this aside. This is our yuca. Again, it's almost come to a boil. And once it boils, we're going to cook it for about 5 minutes. Important when you're making the fried yuca that you're not overcooking it, or else it just turns to mush. It's harder to fry that way. So you want it basically just before done is what you're looking for. Think of it very much as like a classic French fry. You're doing the same process where you're blanching it first, in this case in water instead of oil, and then you're allowing it to cool a little bit for like 10-15 minutes, and then you're going to either deep fry it or air fry it. Either way works. The concept is very much based on a starchy root vegetable that you're frying, like a potato. As you can see, it's just coming to a boil right now. We're going to drop it down just a little bit, because we don't want to boil the crap out of it. And we're going to set a 5-minute timer. Alright, so it's been about 5 minutes. Now you don't want to stir these around. You're really looking not to beat the hell out of these things, okay? And you can start to see some translucency there. That is what you're looking for. Yep. You want the tiniest bit of resistance, okay? You don't want too much give. We're going to lay these on a paper, okay? just like that. As you can see, we've got our mojo resting there. And then these, just kind of line them up a little bit. It's obviously hot, so you can use like tongs or something like that if you want. They don't have to be perfect. You just want them not piled on top of each other. I do try to place them cut side up, if you will. I don't know if that makes sense. This way you can kind of see, once they're cool enough to handle, you can sometimes go back, and if you see the root, like in this one, you see the root there, you can pull that root out. Like this is that root that I showed you sticking out earlier. Let's take this, and we're just going to pull it, and what comes out comes out. So if it breaks like that, that's okay, because this part is probably pretty swaggy, pretty woody. Now if we were just doing this kind of like classic mojo style, we would have let them cook for probably maybe another 2 minutes, and then either drain them and toss them right into our mojo sauce, and then finish with herbs if you want. Now we're going to let these cool for about 10 minutes or so. So while we are waiting for our yuca to cool down, we're going to finish our mojo sauce. And for that, I like to, you can do this separately, but I like to do this as it just cools, so it's no longer hot, because you don't want it hot. Just, I would say, just barely above room temp, just like that. I like to add my chopped cilantro to the oil, and just that touch of warmness, again, just a touch, kind of helps open those flavors a little bit. And that's exactly what you're looking for, just like that. We have preheated our air fryer. Now I'm not gonna lie, I've never had these air fried. I definitely enjoy the hell out of them fried, like actual fried. This is a little bit of an adventure for me too. So we're going to line these guys up. Now that they're cool, they've kind of formed what you're looking for, which is kind of like a skin of sorts. And again, if we got to overlap them a little bit, not the end of the world. You're going to drizzle them just with a little bit of olive oil. We'll put them for 8 minutes at 400 and see what they look like. All right, so what I did here is I cooked them for 12 minutes as was, and then opened them up, drizzled them with a little more olive oil, and then toss them around, because once after the 12 minutes they form that skin, and then they can move around a little bit easier. And then I cooked them for another 7 minutes. All right, so let's take a look. So that is what we're looking at right now. Really beautiful. Listen to this. Super crisp. Hear that crispiness? They are really beautiful. Nice. Listen to that crisp. 100%. They definitely get more of that hot brown color, if you will, when you deep fry them, but I mean, that is a pretty crispy critter right there. And especially if you're trying to, you know, save a little bit on frying, this is a great way to do it. And now for the final step here, we're going to take our mojo, not all of it, but about that much. Beautiful. Little bit of salt, and we are going to toss. Oh, wow, that smells so good. And we're just going to take them, and we're going to lay them out, beautiful, in the bowl, just like that. Oh my God. We're going to take the rest. You do not want to waste this, obviously. Just like that. Now these are going to be smoking hot inside, but that is exactly kind of what you're looking for. One of the reasons why I'm doing this is because I am going to serve this alongside our feijoada, our Brazilian feijoada. Nice. And this is how we would serve this. We've got our beautiful feijoada here, our crispy yuca with mojo over the top, and we've even got kind of a side of pickles that would be traditional on a Brazilian table, even with the traditional pickled biquinho peppers, which look spicy as hell, but they are all the flavor of a spicy chili and none of the heat. They're pretty amazing. I grew them myself on the garden this year. They're an amazing pepper. And there you have it. That's how you serve crispy yuca with mojo. This smells so damn good. I mean, it's fluffy inside, you know? It's so starchy and then crispy on the outside, but it stays nice and fluffy on the inside, just like a potato does. It tastes so good. I mean, if you decide to deep fry them, even better. I'm just trying not to fry quite as much, but if you deep fry them, they get so crispy on the outside. It's just an amazing, amazing root vegetable. Cassava, yuca, manioc, whatever you call it, you should definitely try it today. Grab some from your grocery store, follow the tips on this video, and explore the world of cassava. It's fantastic. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and ring that notification bell, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, everyone. Peace.